the biggest way I can explain what shifted for me over the course of the class was that I was able to see my son as a good person again. And over the course of so many months of missed connections and not understanding him and trying things that weren't working, or trying something that would work for a day and then the next day it wouldn't, I really lost faith in him. And that was, and just, it makes me so sad to think about, because what a horrible experience that must have been for him. He could tell that I just thought he was, I kind of thought he was a lost cause a lot of the time. And I think that the combination of sharing and learning resources and practicing with him over the course of the class, that is the biggest thing that shifted for me. Was I suddenly saw him as a good kid again. And having that as a starting place was so huge. So the best example of that was that we were at home and the baby was crawling around and Jonah was, running like Tasmanian devil laps like around the house. And I came in and I told him, I said, honey, you need to slow down because the baby's right here. And I'm worried that you're going to knock him over. And he acknowledged it. And then I moved on, and in a minute he was doing it again, and I heard this huge crash and crying from the baby. And so I ran in and got the baby, and the baby was bleeding on his mouth and he'd bitten himself or something, and it wasn't serious, but he was really upset and I was upset. But there was enough space somewhere. And again, if this had happened like 3 months prior, I would have freaked out and like grabbed Jonah by the shoulders and told him what a horrible thing he had done and probably told him to go away. Because that was just the only tool I knew about, was like if I made him feel bad enough, then he wouldn't do it again. And obviously that was not working. And so in that moment, I just had there was enough space where I chose to talk to him like I knew he was really, really sorry. And the thing was, in that moment, that was very hard to do because he was looking at me with this like nasty little smile on his face. Like, hey, I just knocked over the baby, which is like super distressing to see from your child, because that just seems like, psychopathic behavior. But I just chose to ignore that and talk to the kid that I know he is, who really is very sensitive and cares about other people. And so I told him, I said, you know what? The baby's okay. I know you did not mean to do that, and everything's going to be fine, and I know that was an accident, and he's going to be fine, and I know you're really upset and sorry about that. And then we just kind of moved on, and we had to leave, and we were getting in the car. When we were loading up into the car, I put his seatbelt on, and he looked at me very earnestly, and he said, can I please kiss the baby and hug the baby? And I said, yes, you can. And I watched him give the most tender, heartfelt kiss and hug to him that he'd ever given, because he just doesn't often slow down and do that with anyone. And then he looked at me just dead in the eyes and said, I am never going to do that again. I was like, oh, good. That sounds great. But it was so moving to have the choice of whether to see him as the bad kid or see him as the good kid, and to choose the good kid. And it just sort of felt like I cleared that space for him, and then he stepped into it. And that was just so awesome to see.